I was giving a second thought to the Fuentes Destiny thing, and something I thought about that you kind of can't understand the very ideas of quote unquote conspiracy theory or the conspiracy theorists, unless one is acquainted with really sort of the fountainhead of it. And the fountainhead of it being generally it will be called, people will say, is Kabbalah. I'm one of those people that's like, I started to look into why the right says what it said, because I was like, they keep referring to things I don't know about. And so I started to find, like, especially in reading with Kabbalah, I was like, okay, there's a lot of this that it seems like it's fundamentally, a lot of Neoplatonism. It took me a long time to find that out, that a lot of it was, and then references of a wide variety to sort of biblical characters that aren't referred to heavily. So there'll be sort of these apocryphal stories, and to sort of explain why the cosmos is the way it is, in various or to make sort of, then there's the making sort of mystical and also a mythological sense of certain books, like the books of Kings, or the various books of Kings. One of the things about it is that a lot of Kabbalistic schools say that these were the various worlds that existed before Earth, and these were the kings that ruled them, and that you see how they were destroyed, and that they were imperfect worlds that were out of balance. A very important thing to understand then is somebody who's hearing something like this would be like, wait a second, that's like that story, and then it's ding, ding, ding. Judaism is a living religion. So the ideas that started to just flourish, especially around the Renaissance, that we a lot of times identify with Kabbalah, are actually like they were trying to keep developing with the new knowledge and old knowledge that was being rediscovered, especially out of Spain. This is why in the modern period you see there's so much praise in academia for Spain under Islam and their translations of Greek works. And a big part of that really comes from, that was a period of time that the Jewish community of Europe flourished. And if it wasn't for that population of Jews, that they would have been, the Black Plague pretty much almost wiped them out from Western and Eastern Europe. And so is the Sephardic Jews of Spain that kind of almost had to help with the repopulation of Europe, of Jewish people. And so once you know how ideas of Kabbalah affected then Catholicism, and seriously, we had serious effects on Catholicism, and then were a huge deal with the art of the Renaissance, because this was also a period of time that a lot of these families had some money and they wanted certain artwork created. And these were these apocryphal images and concepts, one of which Enoch. That's one that it doesn't play that big of a role in Christianity up until that time, and it becomes extremely important after that period of time because of apocryphal stories about and then this idea of certain like secrets that Enoch knew, and these would be at the time coupled with sort of proto-science. And you see like diagrams of alchemy that would later come out like hundreds of years later, but that various families had sponsored these works, and that these were ideas that were very theoretical. It's very theoretical kind of theology and stuff. But a big part of it was coming out of all this new knowledge of this new kind of science. But without knowing how much those ideas affected then also theology and cosmology, and then eventually it has an effect, because it's a living tradition, it has an effect in our times on humanitarianism, and that there's language, and that also it had a huge effect on on Protestants, huge effect on Protestants, and you almost can't. There's a lot of people who argue that fundamentally the Protestants really are almost this offshoot of Christianity that wouldn't exist without the tradition of Kabbalah and its sort of effect on the thinkers of that time. And so these would have been like just the educated class and very serious thinkers, and that they would have had these old texts and this way of fusing ideas that was syncretic. These would have been big ideas. This would have been like the big thinkers of the day. They're in then these various fraternal organizations that try to keep themselves secret to discuss these ideas, and they came up with the very idea of like a lot of the ideas that form our republic come out of that. It's not a republic that's founded on ideas from Orthodox Christianity or Judaism. It's a fusion of a lot of ideas, but quite specifically with this idea of the individual, which is a very, very that's a modern period thing. So without knowing about Kabbalah in some way, really, like, there's so many movies, so many TV shows. If you don't know what you're about this, you really can't understand a lot of the thinking of conspiracy theorists, because they're seeing people take this sort of slightly secret symbol system and use it to tell these stories. And it's fascinating once you know, and as Semyogog puts it, once you could read the signs. But without that, it's very difficult to understand where the idea of the conspiracy theorists are even kind of coming from. Yeah. All right, later.